Hey everybody, hope you're all doing well. I think Mackenzie's trying to join now. We are here for our July Ask Me Anything webinar. Here comes Mackenzie.
Can you hear me?
I can, indeed.
Okay.
Looks like you're in a new location.
I'm in my basement. I finally got it kind of cleaned up a little bit more and tried to, well, I'm not quite done with the shelves behind me, but.
It looks good. We're live, by the way. I pushed it into the, I think I did. Do I have to let people in? Oh, no, they're here.
Oh, there they go. Okay.
All right, everybody, go ahead and tell us who you are and where you're checking in from. Cape Girardeau, Los Angeles, California, Ms. Bushra. Michigan, Dallas, nice. John and Justine from Fairfield, California. I don't know where Fairfield is, do you?
I think it's South California.
Man, we've been watching this documentary on the Golden State Killer. It's something else, man.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, John's in the Bay Area. That's nice. Omar's in Boston. This is great. So we got people all over the United States, and we even have someone from Alexandria, Egypt. I was at the library in Alexandria last January. It's a pretty awesome place. Cesar's from Albuquerque. Better call Saul, but he's calling Jim instead. All right, everybody, we'll give everybody like 1 more minute to log in. Looks like Mackenzie's having some connectivity problems. So go ahead and start putting your questions in the chat. That's how we do it. Mackenzie will filter them and feed them to me, and I will do my best to answer the questions. I should start off before we get to the questions. I don't know, Mackenzie, if you saw. Yeah, you did, because you replied to my Slack. The Trump administration has backed down from their ill-advised plan to force F1 students and M1 students to leave the United States if they were going to take all online classes. So they were getting a lot of pressure, I think, from the universities, and in fact had been sued by Harvard and MIT, and they backed down at the hearing today. They have rescinded the order, and international students will be treated hopefully like they always have. Now, I will say that this rule, while we're glad that it got rescinded, I think when it comes to international students who don't already have their visas, I think they're still going to have to prove that they have non-online classes so that there's a reason for them to come to the United States. I think the Trump administration will still use the coronavirus to try to keep those international students out. So wanted to share that little bit of good news. We don't get much good news at immigration these days. So we thought we would lead off with a little bit of good news, and then we would get to your questions. I have been in meetings literally since 7:30 this morning, so I'm a little bit fried, but I will try to get my energy level up and give you guys all the best information that I can. So let's roll.
All right, so let's start off with Rajnish. He asks, do you know if USCIS has started doing biometrics for H-4 visa holders? Has this been seen before?
I haven't seen them doing many biometrics for anybody. I think USCIS is getting ready to go on lockdown, furlough. They're going to furlough 75 or 80% of their people. So we haven't seen biometrics. I guess we've gotten some biometrics notices. I haven't checked the mail lately, but I think they're few and far between.
Mm-hmm. Abdul Jabbar says, I've been out of the U.S. for 2 years, but my green card has expired. I got my green card through my spouse. Can I come back to the U.S.?
You can try, but they probably won't let you in. If they do let you in, you're going to have to explain to an immigration judge why you shouldn't be deported and why you haven't abandoned your residency. So I think the chances of you getting let back into the United States are probably about 25%. Otherwise, I think that they're going to turn you around and not let you come in.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if this is Denise or Dennis, but they say, do you think there will be an official government publication on the rescindment? My friend is trying to re-enter for her new program as she just completed another program under the F1.
Yeah, that's what I think there will be an official announcement, but I think they like confusion, and there's confusion. There'll be confusion all over at the embassies. There'll be confusion as to whether the new rule applies to people who already had visas or people who need to get their visas renewed. So I think that anyone who's going to an embassy to attend a university in the United States on an F1 visa will have to be prepared to show that they will have in-classroom requirements. Otherwise, I don't think they're going to get the visa. So I think that there's not going to be anybody getting actually kicked out of the United States, but I think they're not going to be letting people in, which is right along par with what they've been doing. Looks like Mackenzie's locked up. I saw that there was a question about how long is a reasonable amount of time to wait for an asylum interview or an asylum decision. And what we've been telling people is that now is not the time to file lawsuits for asylum delays. So if your case has been delayed, you should be happy. If you have a pending asylum case and you haven't had your interview or you haven't had a decision, that's a good thing, because most asylum cases are being denied. You don't want to have an asylum interview right now. You should be hoping that the president is not reelected and that asylum rules return back to normal. So if you have a pending asylum case, you should be happy that your case is not been decided and that it's still pending. All right, let me see what I can do without Mackenzie. She texted me to say she's having some technical difficulties. All right. All right, so Encore says he's from India and he's unable to find a co-sponsor. Can I show money in account as per household size? In my experience, if you can't find a co-sponsor, you're most likely not going to get a visa. Just showing money in the account isn't going to carry the day. And I would say that if you don't find a co-sponsor, you're not going to find someone, or you're not going to be able to come to the United States. So it's really important that you go ahead and find that co-sponsor. Asking them to look at your bank account generally doesn't work. That was a question about the finding a co-sponsor in the affidavit of support. I also answered a question while you were gone about how long should people wait, or what's reasonable when it comes to waiting for an asylum decision.
Okay.
I can pull some up if you want.
Yeah, sorry, my Wi-Fi is like being a little fritz, so.
Okay.
Omar says, I'm a Yemeni student here in the U.S. I entered the U.S. in May 2017, and in between, I left the country many times. Do you think I can apply for temporary protection of status?
I haven't checked lately for Yemen itself, but I'm pretty sure that they're not taking any new applications for TPS. I think that the applications that they're accepting now are just for renewal of TPS. I don't know that for sure, but that's what I think is true.
Mm-hmm. Okay. John said, my sister's visa category when she was petitioned by my dad was F2B. Now she's married and received a notice that she was moved to the F31 classification. Will she maintain her priority date?
My understanding is that if you get married on an F2B, that visa is dead and you have to start over. I've not heard of people getting reclassified to F31. That might be what happens. I've just never seen that happen. So the priority date would be included, but, well, wait a minute. Is the dad a green card holder or a citizen?
It wasn't listed.
Yeah, so, F2B would be a green card holder. So if she gets married, there's no visa category for John's a citizen now. The dad's a citizen now. Okay, so dad applies for daughter as a green card holder. And daughter is over 21. Daughter gets married. My understanding is that once she gets married, that case is over and he has to refile, especially if he's now a U.S. citizen. I'm not 99%. I'm 99% sure of that. I'm not 100% sure. So I would say that before you abandon that case, it'd be worthwhile having somebody do the research and look at it. But I think without having my research in front of me, my gut tells me that the day she got married, the visa application filed by your father for your sister was over.
Caesar says, do you think I should bring my co-sponsor's birth certificate and tax returns to my green card interview? We submitted those with the application back in February of last year.
You should always bring everything that you submitted, the originals or another copy, to your interview. That's one thing. But those aren't the right things to submit. The birth certificate, actually the birth certificate could technically work, but the tax transcripts are what you need. So right now they don't put much stock in tax returns. They want to see the tax transcripts. they want proof from the IRS that you actually paid your taxes, not just that you completed the forms. So a birth certificate will work. You don't need to bring their original birth certificate, but a copy of their birth certificate with proof that it was properly filed. I mean, a copy of their passport is better, but a birth certificate would work to prove citizenship. And then you're going to need the tax transcripts from the IRS, not the tax returns.
Jennifer said that her husband and her had an I-130 and I-485 denied again after an approved appeal. The reasons for the denial was that they weren't accepting their taxes because they weren't certified copies, and then they accused her of creating a deed to their home. Do you think, every reason they gave for not accepting our documents and for the denial was false. What can I do? Do you think this is a legal money racketeering scheme?
I don't know about that. I would suspect that that you didn't give them what they asked for. I would suggest refiling, not filing an appeal, and hiring an attorney to put the case together the way that they're used to receiving it so that it gets approved.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Marthin says, I've been married in the US, but we have been separated for a while. I just won the lottery and I have a fiance. Is it safe to divorce the first spouse and marry the fiance right away so that my fiance, who is also here, can benefit from my diversity lottery? Is it safe since the processing takes so long?
There's a lot of missing information in this hypothetical. Number one is, what's the fiance's current status? Number two is, are they going to be in status when the time comes to adjust? But overall, I think this is a bad plan. I would focus on getting my green card through the diversity visa. I would get properly divorced. I would not rush it all, and I would not mess up my green card case by getting married. I think that's just going to make it much, much harder to get approved, and it's going to stink, and they're not going to like it.
Okay. Manish has a question about the writ of mandamus. He's an EB1 Indian national. He filed the I-485 in 2018, did an interview in 2019. The retrogress priority date is now current in July 2020 bulletin. Do you think I can file a lawsuit, and how much time do you think it'll take?
You can and should probably file a lawsuit. If it retrogresses again, that sort of puts us in a bad spot. But you might be okay until October, when the new fiscal year starts. You might see a jump in numbers or retrogression. You never know when it's going to retrogress. So I haven't filed any lawsuits where the priority date retrogressed, but I think we'd have to put it on hold if we did, or even dismiss it. So you could do it. It usually takes about 90 to 120 days to get a decision on a mandamus case. You're probably just going to be sitting otherwise. So you just got to make the decision. Is it worth it to me to roll the dice to spend $4,000 on something that I think will give me my green card?
Okay. Mohammed has a question about public charge regarding the DS 5540, the new form for public charge for people going through consular interviews. Are you familiar whether or not it went to effect yet? Also, I am now at the NVC waiting for the F2B category. My father is on Social Security pension. Do you think this will count as a negative factor, or will the public charge only be regarding financial support received by applicants and not the applicant's family members?
So if your case is at the embassy now, the new rules regarding public charge wouldn't apply. You filed before, your father filed before the new rule went into effect, so you're still under the old rule. But even under the old rule, the fact that your father is on disability makes it very unlikely that the case is going to be approved without a good co-sponsor. So it's not so much a matter of which form you're going to use. I think that they'll use the fact that your father's on disability to ding you on the public charge under the old rule. So I think that you're going to need a co-sponsor, and you're going to need to explain to them how you're not going to become a public charge, either through your employment history, money in your account, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. Irina says, we filed the writ of mandamus for our IR1. The defendants have postponed 2 times now. Is there a limit to how many times they can postpone the deadline?
No, only what's reasonable and only what your attorney recommends. So, I mean, the tricky thing the tricky thing is that the embassy hopefully are opening tomorrow, so hopefully we'll see less of those delays. Ordinarily, we only give one extension in a lawsuit, so the only reason we're giving extensions now is because of the unusual circumstance of these embassies all being closed. So you can always oppose a motion to dismiss. You know, you could always oppose an extension, but if you tell the U.S. attorney that you're going to oppose any more extensions, then they file a motion to dismiss, and they say, basically, Irina, you haven't waited long enough. And if you do that, then you have to reply. Our office would have to reply, and then it's just going to sit with the judge for as long as they want. So it's better overall to give them the extension, in my experience, Alan.
Isaac asks, do you think derivative asylee kids aged 9 and 15 are affected by the visa ban?
Well, the visa ban doesn't apply to people who are in the United States. So if you're applying for asylum and you have a derivative, you'd be in the United States. So the visa ban wouldn't apply to anybody inside the United States.
Okay. Robert says, I'm in the U.S. on an F1 visa, and I've been selected for the diversity lottery. What is the procedure of adjusting status?
That's a great question. I've been over this a lot lately, so I'm glad to answer it here. And I just made a video about this that should drop in about. Did Sanjeet do the videos, Mackenzie?
Let me go check.
It'll drop in the next couple days. I think it's about 4 days away or so of how the diversity visa adjustment works. But if you're in the United States and you win the diversity visa, you're given a case number. And that case number will be something like 2020 AF and then a number. So like today I talked to somebody whose case number was 00985. That's a very low number. I've also spoken to people whose number is like 44,000, right? You know, so, and why that's important is that at the start of the fiscal year on October 1st, people with a low number will be able to apply for adjustment right then. Now, you have to be in status all the way through the process. So you want to make sure that you are in status when you apply to adjust. And if you have a low number and you apply in October, then they'll process your case. And as long as you get the green card by September 30th of the following year, you're good to go. The people with a higher number, they have to be a little bit more worried because they have to make sure that they file at the right time. So you have to watch the visa bulletin every month, and it'll come out and it'll tell you when your region is eligible to apply for a green card. So you apply, you file the I-45, which is the application for adjustment, the I-131 for the travel document, the I-765 for the work card, and then you're going to have to file G325As to do your identity documents, and then you're going to have to file the I-944 for the public charge. So if you get all those on file and file them properly, then you're going to be able to hopefully adjust your status by the end of next fiscal year.
Okay. Rachika says, my U.S. visa ends July 2020, and I'm starting my master's program this fall. I already got a new I-20. When and is it safe for me to travel back home to India to renew my visa?
Anybody who leaves the United States right now to renew their visa is crazy. You should not do that. You will most likely not be let back into the United States. I'm having consults every single day with people who should be able to go down to the embassy and pick up their visa in the next day or two, and they've been stuck there for 9 months. So I would not recommend that.
Okay. Manish says, I received an EDI debit card as part of COVID relief, but I was on my work visa. What are my options with this? I don't think I should have been receiving this.
Did you take out money? If they took out money, I would see about trying to pay that back. If you didn't take out any money, then I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay. Jatha Prakash says, my H-1 visa got denied last November after 13 years on an H-1, I-140 approved, and currently out of the USA, while my wife is on separate H-1 with kids in the US. Do you think I can apply for an H-4, get stamped, and enter the US, and then apply for an H-1 cap exempt while on H-4 as I wait for the EAD?
I'd be interested to hear why the H-1B got denied. That's an interesting thing. I would have probably sued them over that. I don't know if it was denied at the embassy or at USCIS, but I wouldn't have taken that line down. You can try the H-4, but I think anybody trying to get a non-immigrant visa to the United States right now from an embassy, it's a really long haul. So you might want to think about suing them or refiling from outside the United States and then suing if they deny it.
Okay. Jennifer asks, can we use real estate property for meeting income guidelines? And also, if it is a spouse, does the value of the property be divided by 3 or 5?
We never mess around with property. They're not used to calculating it. They don't know how to handle that. I just find a co-sponsor. So we don't recommend wasting your time with that because it usually doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. Carolina asks, if I apply for an I-192 fee waiver, do you think it would have a negative impact on my N-400 in terms of public charge?
Yes. Well, there's no public charge problem for naturalization, but I think the fee waiver, they always go after you harder. So we recommend people paying the fee. We don't mess around with fee waivers unless we absolutely have to.
Okay. Tashawn says, I'm a permanent resident who filed for my wife last September. Prior to that, she was married after an F2A position for her. On the date of her interview, they asked if she was married. She said yes. She was ineligible for the visa at that time. Was this fraudulent on her side because she was in the F2A category?
What's this now? Can you say it to me a little slower?
Yeah. So he says, I'm a permanent resident who filed for my wife last September.
Okay.
Prior to that, she was married, I guess with like a previous spouse.
Okay.
After an F2A petition for her on the date of her interview, they asked if she was married. She said yes. I'm guessing she said yes because she thought she was married to a previous spouse. They told her she was ineligible for the visa at the time. Was this fraudulent on her side because she was in the F2A category?
That question doesn't make sense. They need to re-outline, like, this is what happened, this is what happened, this is what happened. It doesn't make sense the way it's written out.
Okay. Manish asks, my PERM audit is being responded at the moment. If I leave the country after PERM audit is filed, do you think it'll affect the chance of the approval? Can an I-140 be filed from outside of the USA?
An I-140 can be filed from outside the USA. You should not leave while your PERM audit is pending. No one should be leaving the United States right now unless they can afford to stay out for a year. If you can afford to stay outside, I'm going to make a video about that. If you can afford to stay outside the United States for a year, go ahead. Okay.
Okay. Basel says, I'm an asylum applicant since 2015. I've been waiting for my individual hearing since 2017, and for the second time, it got rescheduled to 2024 because of COVID-19. Do you think this is a good time to file an emotion letter?
No, it's not a good time to file a motion letter. You should be happy that your case is set in 2024. Either Trump doesn't get reelected or Trump does get reelected and he's out of office by 2024. The last thing you want to do is go to see an immigration judge right now. The immigration judges are being pressured by William Barr and the Department of Justice to deny as many asylum cases as possible. So as I said at the top of the show, the last thing you want to do is go to an asylum interview right now.
Okay. Carolina says, I'm applying for the N-400 under the 5-year rule. I'm waiting for my marriage to dissolve, but I have a specific question for the N-400 application where they're asking about marital status. She recently got divorced, but all the questions are relating to the current spouse. So should she answer the questions as if she's still married?
If she's still legally married, she should list herself as married on the N-400. If her marriage is finalized, if the divorce is finalized by the time she goes to her naturalization interview, she should bring her divorce decree and they will make the correction to the application. But if on the day that she files, she's still legally married, she should list herself as married.
Okay. Dennis says, I'm currently in a same-sex marriage with another man and adjusting status from F1. We're both very masculine and we're both very masculine and the interview questions are very much focused on different sex couples. We're very afraid that we don't fit the stereotypical gay character and where we live is quite conservative. What do you think our interview will be like?
Well, first of all, if you're both real masculine, if the officer gets rude, you should beat the officer up. No, I'm just kidding. We've had situations like this before. In fact, we just had a case like this get approved about 9 or 10 months ago. I don't think you need to worry about that so much. It might be interesting to hear which field office you're at. But, you know, I was lucky enough to represent the first same-sex couple that went through the St. Louis field office after the Defense of Marriage Act got struck down. And since that time, I've probably been to 25 or 30 same-sex marriage interviews. And I don't think that the officers really are looking for heterosexual people or homosexual people to act a certain way. They just want to know if it's a legit marriage. I don't think the way that you carry yourselves matters all that much. I've had probably 2 or 3 same-sex couples where the couples sort of acted the same way and maybe even a rough and tumble way. It just is with a heterosexual couple. Nobody really cares. It's all just about, do you have the documents to prove the marriage? Is it feasible to the officer that you both are in love and got married for love and not to get an immigration benefit? I wouldn't get too hung up on worrying about how they're going to perceive it. Just be yourself and tell the truth and you'll be fine.
Mhm. Mohammed says, do you think the current Trump ban can continue beyond December 31st if Trump got reelected? If so, what are the chances of success in suing over it?
No real success in suing over it yet. Yes, I think it could be extended. If Trump gets reelected, I think that legal immigration in many, many ways will be limited to citizenship and green cards for spouses of U.S. citizens, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Savi says, my I-485 got approved in February. USCIS sent it to an old address. We filed the change of address in May and received confirmation of the same from the Vermont office. I've sent them 2 reminders to send my green card to the new address. No response. What do I do?
Hold on, I was sort of spaced out for that one. I was still thinking about the same-sex couple. Let me finish this. My 45 got approved in February 20. USCIS sent it to my old address. Oh, of course they did. We filed change of address in May of 19. Received confirmation of the same. I've sent them 2 reminders to send my green card to the new address. No response. How many reminders we can send, and what should be the next step? I would work with the post office to try to track down if the green card was sent and if they know where it is. If they don't know where it is, you probably need to find an I-90, file a new I-90 to get a replacement green card, and you need to send them proof that you guys notified them of your address change and prove to them that it was their mistake, not your mistake. Now, the bad news is you're probably waiting for about a year for the green card, so that part sort of sucks. And just real quick, not to pour salt in an open wound, but that's one of the real good reasons why you should work with an immigration lawyer, because we have all the mail come here. And so that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Daniel says, I've applied for asylum and I renew it every 6 months in New York, even though I live in Massachusetts. This time, unfortunately, my documents have been denied. What do I do to get my status back?
That doesn't make sense. You don't apply for asylum every 6 months, and you only get 1 shot at asylum. So I'm not real sure what Daniel's talking about.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You go ahead and ask me that one. I'll go look for John's question up above. Let me see if I can find it.
Oh.
Wait, I did that one. Yeah, I answered this one. This is about the F2B going to an F31.
Mm-hmm.
I think either if the case isn't dead, she's going to have to wait for that F31 to become current. Yes, that's right. Unless there's some mistake. I mean, I've never filed an F2B that got canceled out for the fact that the beneficiary got married. I've seen those cases, but I've never actually been involved in one. So I don't know. I believe what you're telling me, that this says that it got converted from an F2B to an F31, which would be the unmarried daughter of a green card holder to the married daughter of a U.S. citizen. That could be. I just haven't had that happen. So I would need to look at everything before I could give you advice, or before I would recommend that you just accept their argument that she lost her priority date. I'd want to look at everything first.
Okay. Balarinwa says, I'm married to a U.S. citizen and I have a pending I-485 application with a priority date of January of 2019. The case file has been stuck at the National Benefits Center and the status did not say it's ready to be scheduled for an interview. When do you think I can file the writ of mandamus? I'm about to lose my job and USCIS has not given it a decision yet.
Well, hopefully you applied for a renewal of your work card. I mean, that would be one thing that would help ease the difficulty. January of 2019 and suing now in July of 2020, I think that's enough time to have waited, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Jothra Prakash says, my employer does not disclose the reasoning for the H-1B denial. I was denied after 13 years last November. Do you think you can still assist me to sue USCIS with my case?
I think we'd have to talk to the employer. It's a little late to file for a denial. We usually like to do that within 30 days of the denial. I'd be happy to take a look at everything, but we'd have to get the employer on board, and I'd probably suggest filing another H-1B. And then if that one gets denied, appealing that one, not trying to appeal over the old one.
Mm-hmm. Anita says, can my spouse be contacted for another embassy interview during the mandamus lawsuit? My spouse has already attended 2 interviews prior to our lawsuit.
Yes.
Okay. Daniel asks, I got married to an American citizen but got divorced afterwards after 3 months. Without doing a divorce with my previous wife back in Ghana, is that why my green card was denied?
Yes. Let me take this one. There's one here from Henry.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Jim. I'm 6 months into my OPT, and I'm planning on getting married next year to my U.S. girlfriend of 2 years. She is a citizen. We heard it can be hard to prove your marriage legitimate if you do not have enough evidence. What information would they be looking for to convince them, and what can we do now to prepare for the interview? What evidence do we need to start gathering now? Oh, Henry, that's great. I'll pull up real quick. We have a list of marital evidence. Let me grab that while I'm talking, and I'll download it, and I'll put it into the chat for you. But basically, you're going to want documentary evidence of the marriage, of the relationship. If you've been together for 2 years, you should have plenty of pictures and receipts and things of things you've done together, text messages, all that stuff. And then once you start to build your life, and remember, there's some stuff you're going to have when you file, and then when you actually get married, and then build a life until your interview, you're going to have the opportunity, because you're living together, to develop a lot more evidence. So that stuff can be some at the beginning and more later, if that makes sense. You can keep asking me questions, Mackenzie.
Okay. Oh, you just answered Henry?
Yeah.
Okay. With the executive order in... Oh, I think Jim had his internet cut out, or maybe that was... Okay, so we're just going to wait a moment until Jim gets back.
Here I am.
There he is. All
Sorry
right.
about that.
So I was asking, with the executive order in place, can I apply for the H-1 cap exempt petition? Oh, sorry, your handout popped up.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. There's the marriage evidence. The evidence we use, list we use for evidence of marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's clicking on that bad boy. It's got 7 downloads already. Nice.
Okay. Balarinwa says, how much does it cost to file a lawsuit?
$4,000. $400 for the government, $3,600 for greedy Jim hacking.
Okay.
And I should say, there's payment plans, so you can pay $2,500 up front and $500 a month for 3 months.
Mustaf, hold on. Let me see if I can find his question. Mustaf, can you post your question again?
Yeah, that'd be great.
So while we wait for that, I will find a new one.
Cool. Yeah, if we haven't answered your question, don't just say we haven't answered your question. Just post it again, and we'll try to answer it.
Mohammed says if the legal immigration will be limited only to citizenships and green card holders' spouses in case of Trump's new presidency, what will be the case for those who are already waiting at the NVC for interviews at the embassies?
Well, that's what the situation is for people right now, and they're stuck. So I would imagine they continue to be stuck unless a judge or Congress changes the law.
Mm-hmm. Carolina, we answered that one with the divorce and 400 questions.
Yeah, the answer, Carolina, was if you are legally married on the day you file for the N400, you should mark yourself as married, even if you're separated. And if your divorce is then final before you have the actual interview, you bring the divorce decree with you and you explain to them that you're now legally divorced.
Okay. Ancora says, while waiting for the I-130 to get approved, can I travel to the U.S. on any other visa? I never traveled outside of India.
So I have a video on this. If you're asking, do I think that you'll be able to get a non-immigrant visa when you have an I-130 pending? I don't think you'll be able to get a visa. If you already have a visa, you might be able to enter. You could try. They might turn you around, but you should be able. I mean, again, this is all without Corona, but you should be able to come.
Okay. We're getting a lot of repeat questions, like adjusting status for the diversity visa.
Well, actually, this one for Adzo is a little bit different.
Okay.
So Adzo has a pending asylum case, and Adzo won the diversity visa. So you're welcome, Carolina. The difference is, this is really tricky. Now, let's say Adzo files for asylum, and Adzo marries a U.S. citizen, and Adzo applies. Oh no, I'm sorry. Adzo wins the diversity visa, so Adzo's not married to a U.S. citizen. The question is Adzo eligible to adjust status as an asylum seeker? And the answer is, if the asylum case is still at the asylum office, then Adzo can adjust based on winning the diversity visa. If Adzo is not, if his asylum case is at the immigration court, in other words, if he's in deportation, then he can't adjust. At least he can't adjust at USCIS. I suppose he could try to adjust at immigration court, but I think the case law says that you can't. Being in the United States with a pending asylum case is not real status. It's sort of like a halfway in, halfway out kind of a thing. So the answer, Adzo, is it depends on where your asylum case is. If it's at the asylum office, you can adjust. But here's the thing. Those fools at immigration don't know that I'm right? So there's case law that says I'm right. And we've won cases when we've explained to them that I'm right, but they don't necessarily know that they're right. So you might not be able to explain that to them yourselves. In fact, we just took over a case for a couple from California where this exact same thing happened. They filed without a lawyer. His asylum case was pending at the asylum office, and it got denied. And he was wondering, should I reapply or should I appeal? I'll file a motion to reopen. I said, don't file a motion to reopen. Just start over, and we'll send in a brief explaining why you are eligible to adjust. And so that's what we're going to do for him.
Okay. Tosin says, my wife and my 5-year-old daughter are eligible for citizenship this year. I filed the N400 for my wife, but what do I do with my daughter?
How old is she?
She's 5 years old.
Yeah, so you don't do an N400 for your daughter. Well, first of all, she might already be a U.S. citizen by operation of law. So number one, you need to research, is the daughter already a U.S. citizen? Wait, is he a U.S. citizen?
No, he says he has no status.
Oh, he has no status. Okay. Yeah, so mom files an N400. Mom becomes a naturalized U.S. citizen. And then what happens is mom files an N600 because when mom naturalizes, as long as daughter is in the care and custody of mom and daughter's under 18, which she would be because she's 5, then she'll become a citizen by operation of law. So the cool thing is that means she could never be deported because on the day her mom naturalized, she became a U.S. citizen. But in order to properly classify her at USCIS, mom will want to file an N-600 for the daughter, and then demonstrate that, and then the daughter will eventually get a certificate of citizenship. So it's not, she won't go through the naturalization process because she's already a citizen. She'll just need documentation of it so that they reclassify her as a green card holder into a citizen.
Okay. Abdul Jabbar says, my cousin is trying to get a visa through his wife.
Just
He
real quick, Mackenzie,
Yeah.
on that last one, I suppose the daughter must be a green card holder. She must have come with the mom, and they must both be on green cards. Otherwise, we'd have to make sure that daughter entered the United States with inspection. So we'd want to look at that. But otherwise, everything I said is true. Sorry.
Fine. Abdul Jabbar says, my cousin is getting a visa through his wife, but he keeps getting rejected. The reason for rejection given is because when he was 16 years old, his father tried to bring him into the US, but he put their uncle as his brother, and the embassy discovered that, but then put them all on blacklists. What do we do?
Might want to sue about that one. I don't know
Okay.
if the son did anything wrong, so I don't know why he should be blacklisted, but I'd have to look at everything. That's an interesting case.
Okay, Mustafa said, I came to US 7 months ago and my wife sponsored me. She's a US citizen. I got my conditional green card, but unfortunately she kicked me out of the house while I was only staying there for 2 months. I'm not listed on the home and I don't have utility bills in my name and I don't have an account with her. She is not helping me to adjust my green card, which is expired. What can I do now? She's refusing to do anything for me.
That really sucks. It sounds like you're not going to have a lot of evidence. We've had cases just like this get approved. You're going to have to file an I-751 on your own, but it's going to be really hard, and the chances of success are relatively small. It can work. We've done it before with cases just like this, but they're a pain in the butt case, and they're hard to win.
Okay.
And I'm sorry you're going through that, Mustafa. Sorry about that.
Basel says, my asylum court appearance is in 2024. Do you think I can travel to see my wife and parents in the UAE and Saudi Arabia before then?
Not if you want to come back to the United States.
All right.
Oh, Muhammad saying hello from Alexandria. Muhammad, when we were in Alexandria, we went, our family friend's cousin owns this condo on that mall by the Mediterranean Sea in Alexandria. There's a big, it's like an American kind of a mall. And we got to stay in their apartment for like 4 days. And we got to go to the library in Alexandria, which was one of the highlights of the trip. But also, we went out, yeah, San Stefano, exactly. And we went out to eat. After we went to the library, we drove down the street and into this alley, and there was this huge seafood restaurant. So they had, on the ground floor, they had all this meat, like they would grill steaks and meat and chicken and everything. And then up above was all the seafood. And so we went in, you had to go down this alley and you had to know someone to get in there. But the food was so good. My kids ate for 3 hours straight. They loved it. It was great. Sorry about that, everybody. Sorry about that.
That sounds good, though.
Yeah, it was real good. I think we're running low on questions, right? I think we're almost done.
Yeah, we've gotten a couple of repeats. I guess they've lost connection when you were saying the answer, but everybody will get a recording of this, so
Yeah, that's good. So we're not
go
going to repeat them.
Okay, Encore says, for a household of 5, how much annual income is required for a co-sponsor or a petitioner?
So it's 30,000 plus 5,500 for each person. So that would be probably around $55,000.
Okay. Manish says, I received an RFE on my H-1B extension in the 6th year. As the max out date was coming near, so I applied for COS based on spouse work visa. Now my H-1B, RFE, and COS application both are pending with USCIS. What does this mean for me in terms of staying in the USA?
I'm reading the question right now. Yeah, this isn't good, Manesh. You need to make sure that you're still in status. I'd want to look at everything. It's hard to give advice about this because it seems sort of messy. And I don't know what the RFE is about. So I would say it's serious and you might be accruing unlawful presence. So it's something we'd want to look at. Daniel asked, how does he talk to me? And Mackenzie's going to send out, I'm going to put in our contact information here real quick so everybody has it. But Mackenzie will send you all actually, the software will send you a replay of the video, and we'll post the video on YouTube tomorrow, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And then our phone number. All right, everybody. Well, it's fun being with you all. We'll be here next month. I'm going to roll. Mackenzie, I'll see you. Hey, everybody. Encore, thanks. Everybody, we're glad to see you. We're glad we're able to help. We enjoy doing these very much. I like seeing people. And as I mentioned, I always get good questions for my videos. So if you have any questions, always just email that. That email address is always monitored. So whatever you need, we'd be happy to try to help and safe. And if you haven't seen my video from today, I really tried to give sort of a motivational video to get people pumped up. And we'll see you next month. Thanks, Mackenzie.
Bye.